Hi, Michael Neese from Interview Mastery, the world's most widely used job interview prep software used by 54,000 people in 73 countries. Today's video is specifically to address age discrimination and what you can do about it both before and during the interview. So let's get right into it. You know, when I was a younger man, I never really worried about age discrimination. I says, oh, that's somebody else's problem. You know, and when I hit 40, I still didn't even think about it. Now, if you know anything about employment law, if you're over 40, you are in a protected class that says people can't discriminate against you. Now, when I hit 50, I started to be concerned about it. And what I did is on my resume, you know, if the experience that I had 20, 25 years ago wasn't specifically focused on that job, then I just dropped it. I also dropped the years that I graduated from college. So now that I'm significantly over 50, I'm concerned about it. Age discrimination is pervasive. Actually, discrimination of all kinds is pervasive in the hiring process. It just is kind of hidden. You know, it's everywhere. It's in every company, every city. Interviewers are normally completely unaware of the many laws that affect employment and interviewing. But most of the time, they know they're breaking the law when they're discriminating against you. They just don't think they're going to get caught. Also, younger interviewers can't imagine the day when they will be sitting on the other side of the interviewer desk and they're going to be a victim of age discrimination. Age discrimination hides behind the fit issue, F-I-T. When interviewers are committing age or other types of discrimination, it usually hides behind the words of them saying, well, I'm not sure that this person's going to fit in our company or our team culture. And nobody really comes back and says, well, what do you mean fit? You know, people just let it go. And they go on to another candidate. So whether the interviewer raises the fit issue or not, you want to address this potential concern about your age. So what I'm going to give you is a simple strategy that involves what you do before and during the interview to help minimize the impacts or the chances that you're going to get discriminated against. So the first thing I want you to do is before the interview, as part of your research, I want you to make a list of all the different, just list the different places where you've worked. And this could be obviously paid for employment, it could be volunteer work, it could be an academic setting or any other type of setting where you are actually performing a task. All right, so just make your list. Second thing I want you to do is next to each organization or each team, I want you to list 3 or 4 words that describe that culture or the qualities of the environment that you had to work in. Just describe the top 3 qualities. So, for example, you might describe your most recent team as careful, analytical, and risk-averse. That's pretty typical with large corporate environments, even though management would like to say that, no, we're entrepreneurial, we're multitasking, we're focused on results. Alternatively, you may have volunteered a local sports team, a cable TV show, a nonprofit organization, and the team culture may have been described as high energy, entrepreneurial, creative problem solving, and an ability to figure out how to get things done with very limited resources. So you get the idea. You make your list of the places where you have worked. And the next thing you do is make a list of those qualities that describe that team culture. And as part of your research, your pre-interview research about the company, you want to research how they describe their culture. Now you can do this by asking a contact that you may have inside that company, or just read the company's websites. Lots of times if you go into the About section, they describe some things about their culture. You could also go to a website called Glassdoor.com and see what kinds of comments current and previous employees have said. Now keep in mind, when you go to a site like Glassdoor, people are only motivated to make negative comments when they've had a bad experience. So don't emphasize what you read on sites like that. You'll know that it's not all going to be totally good and not totally bad, somewhere in between, and your experience may be quite different. The other thing you can do is look on LinkedIn recommendations for your interviewers. So how does this work? If you have insight, if you know who your interviewers are going to be, you go to LinkedIn and oftentimes they will have recommendations that from other people, co-workers and bosses, have said about them in their previous jobs. So you can get a sense of what other people are saying about your interviewers. And oftentimes these days, on company websites, under their career section, they might have a video that describes their culture or what they imagine their culture is. Okay, so in review, so far you've made a list of the places you've worked, and you've made a list, a 3-word description of those, the quality of those cultures. The next thing we just did is you researched how that company describes their culture. All right? This is what you do before the interview. Now, during the interview, the first thing you want to do is you want to find out how this interviewer describes the culture. So here's the sequence. First, ask your interviewer to describe the culture where you're going to work. For example, you could ask the following. I realize a new team member must not only be exceptionally qualified, but they must fit in well with the current team. How would you describe the team culture in which I'll work? And then you listen for the words that this particular interviewer uses to describe this particular team culture. Second thing you do is, after listening to that responses, remember, you're just trying to pick out a few words. So after listening to the interviewer description of the team, you provide an example where you have worked in a similar environment. For example, you might say the following. Fitting in with the team is certainly very important. Throughout my career, I've worked in many different types of cultures. For example, when I worked at the XYZ Corporation, I was part of a 6-person team that might best be described as, and then you insert the 2 or 3 words that align with what that interviewer just described to you as their culture. As soon as we started working together and focused on getting the project deliverables done, the differences between us became irrelevant. We achieved the project goals, surpassed management objectives ahead of schedule. You know, the things that I was most proud of was the recognition both from peers and from supervisors for the team's ability and my ability to get the job done. So we did a great job. All the team members got along, and we got to the point where we knew when future teams we could really count on each other to get things done. I elaborated a little bit there. The most important thing is I am citing an example where I worked in a similar environment that this interviewer just described. Now, each one of the interviewers, you can ask this of each one of the interviewers, and they will probably give you a different description of their culture. Okay, well, so after you've just given an example of where you've worked in this type of culture, the third thing you want to do is express your confidence in your ability to not only do a great job, but to fit in with the team culture. And you might say, based on my track record, I'm confident that I can fit in well with the team, especially since I've worked in similar environments before. And the last thing you do, if you've seen other videos, the last thing I'd encourage you to do is ask a question. And you ask a simple question like, did I give you enough detail? You know, was I clear on that? Or would you like me to give you another example of a team culture similar to this one where I've worked? Now, if you haven't worked in a similar work environment described by the interviewer, describe how you have thrived in several different environments, and that in each time you were able to get the job done and have a good relationship with your peers. Then go on to describe the team culture that is best for you, and just describe one that's similar to their culture. So you can describe your favorite work environment where you have worked before, or a collage of the environment. So you might work in an environment at XYZ Corporation that was described as analytical and thought-provoking, and that was a good quality for you. And you may have worked at the ABC company that was more entrepreneurial and creative, and you really liked that aspect at that company. So the ideal environment for you might be one that's analytical, thought-provoking, has a sense of entrepreneurship and creativity. So here's what you're doing is you're picking the best qualities that are best for you. Now, age discrimination, if you're just doing everything you can to demonstrate not only your competence to do the job, your interest in the position, and your ability to thrive in multiple team cultures. Because your interviewer is really trying to assess those things, not just your ability to do the job, but how well you're going to fit in with the team. Before your next interview, just walk through this simple exercise of researching the company, specific culture, researching how they describe their culture. Make a list of the places where you have worked, nonprofit, for-profit, volunteer, and describe those cultures. And during the interview, ask your interviewer to describe the qualities of their culture. And then you're just going to cite examples where you've worked in a similar culture. You're going to be awesome on your next interview. Go get them.